Like, I'm telling you, just wait till the jungle noises. It's coming.
I look over to him like, what's coming? And it's never what
always,
I expect.
yeah.
I never know your next
It's
move.
unpredictable, bro.
He's Travis Thomas. I'm George Balekji. This is Boston has entered the chat in the PNC Bank studio. We got a packed show for you guys today.
Yeah, we do.
Later on in the show, we got Matt Miller of ESPN. Great draft analyst for them. My guy, going back to our Missouri days.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to love what he has to say about the quarterbacks in this draft. He's high on Shedeur Sanders, and I loved what he points out about it, so we have that later on in the show. And then we got our boy. Now he's our boy after talking to him.
Now he is.
Treshaun Ward of Boston College. He's from Florida. We talk Jersey football, Florida football, BC, the run they've been on. Just a great dude, so we have that later on in the show. But let's start out with the big news for the Patriots.
Yeah.
David Andrews, and we suspected this after the updates we were hearing.
You called it.
Multiple medical opinions. And I said he's either thinking, do I need surgery? Do I not? How does it return? Jerod Mayo at his presser said it's going to require surgery. He will probably go on the IR and be done for the season. No matter what, this is a long-term loss for the Patriots.
Yes.
This is one of those guys that's indispensable. Before the season, you could have listed off the guys they can't lose. It would be David Andrews. It's Mike Onwenu. It is Jawan Bentley. It's Christian Barmore. And it's Kyle Duggar.
God.
They only have one of those five right now, 100% healthy and playing.
Could you throw Judon in there too?
Yeah.
Right?
But then with Judon, you can at least replace him with the Keon White.
Yeah,
Here's
true.
what we get into. Nick Leverett did an okay job stepping into the game against the 49ers. But the 49ers without Javon Hargrave, like that's big to point out.
Sure.
Nick Leverett's a converted guard to center. Like he is a guard in his background. He did okay. It's just so many moving parts on the offensive line. And I pointed out before, I pointed out again. Left tackle is a fourth stringer, should be practice squad. Left guard is City So, starter back. Your center is now Nick Leverett. I don't know what he is. Your right guard is Layden Robinson, who's a rookie that's not good in pass pro. And your right tackle, Mike Onwenu, should be your right guard. That's your offensive line.
Well, obviously the timing, the fact that the line is a mess. You know what you're missing without David Andrews on the field, everything you illustrated for sure. But the leadership is the biggest thing for me, especially in a season where it is clear to everyone that this is going to be a long season, okay? And it is a rebuild that we're in, and you have a rookie head coach, right? And so it almost creates a perfect storm in a sense of, boy, you need probably more than ever, George, veteran leadership. Guys, it's, hey, yeah, I know we're taking in water here. Everyone stay calm. And now not only do you lose what you lose on the field, but you lose that in leadership as well. It's devastating.
And him speaking to some of his teammates, like he was going through, he was trying to play. And he realized
you said you thought he would push through.
He would. Yeah, but and as it was put by his teammates, like I didn't know the severity of it.
Right.
But yeah, multiple medical opinions is, do I need surgery? Do I not?
Yes.
What's the timeline? And what can I be?
That's right.
And coming out of the locker room, some Patriots players said he spoke to them and he said it was either no surgery or surgery and I'm done. But he realized if he tried to play, it'd be bad for him long term and it would hurt the team. That shows how severe of an injury it was to his shoulder.
He had no choice.
Because even if he played, he would have been a shell of himself at the center position, which is so important.
Yeah, of course.
And Jerod Mayo said it. I mean, the quarterback to center relationship is pointing out the mic.
Yeah.
David Andrews leads everything up front at the line. Now you need Nick Leverett, who he said, hey, did an okay job at that. We'll see. Tough.
This doubles down.
This is a huge break.
This doubles down on your Drake May take now. I mean, it just adds to it. Because center to quarterback, you just said it. It's such a critical relationship. You're going to go to Drake May at some point. And now does that timeline change? Whatever they being the Patriots were thinking for Drake May, does it get affected? Do you push it back a little bit now because of the news with Andrews? I wonder that too.
Jerod Mayo claims Drake May injury, Drake May plan.
Yeah.
He says those are separate of one another.
Yeah, he says that.
But you're going to look at this offensive line and exactly that. Again, I'll just point it out. David Andrews is a guy you could not lose. You could not afford to lose because of your lack of depth, but also his significance to the team.
Sure.
He goes down an already awful offensive line who's letting up the most pressures in the NFL by percentage of dropbacks. And an offensive line that is responsible for 91% of the pressures that Jacoby Brissett has dealt with. He's responsible for the other 7.5% according to PFF. You lose your best player, your smartest player, your key communicator. Everything in this, on top of being a leader, it's detrimental to the offense. It definitely affects the Drake May plan.
Yeah.
Let's get into it quick with Rhamondre Stevenson. So Jerod Mayo was asked if he's considered giving Antonio Gibson the start because of Stevenson's fumbling. And Jerod Mayo said, it's definitely under consideration.
Yeah.
I've had multiple conversations with Rhamondre. We can't preach at ball security, job security, and still have him out there a majority of the time. It sends a stronger message to the players that there are certain things we just can't do to win, especially with the team that we have today. The team we have today, Rhamondre Stevenson's fumbled in every game, and he's lost a fumble in 2 straight losses.
This is laughable to me in a way, and I'll tell you why. If you're saying we're going to give Antonio Gibson more looks, more touches to try and get a spark in the offense, Rhamondre needs to hang on to the ball, I have no problem. If you think for a second that you're going to go from Rhamondre with fumbleitis to Antonio Gibson, who's going to protect the ball, you got another thing coming, and you clearly didn't do your research. Bro balled out in Washington. I was there. I covered it. You know what his problem was? Fumbleitis. He can run the ball. He can catch. He's the ultimate weapon. He's a home run hitter. He does everything great. But he puts the ball on the ground. So not only do you have one running back who fumbles, you have 2. So I sort of have a little bit of an issue with, we could just turn to Antonio Gibson here. That ain't the end-all, be-all either. He fumbles too. Yeah. Look, both of these guys can play, Rhamondre and Gibby. Give them both the rock. What do you have to lose? Your offense is putrid any damn ways. Give them both the rock and just keep preaching ball security. That's part of coaching. It's what you got to do.
But if you're establishing a culture and Rhamondre is a repeat offender, which Jerod Mayo has said since day one, I will not be a repeat offender. I don't expect my guys to be a repeat offender. There has to be a standard you uphold.
It's like setting an example.
4 straight games with the fumble's bad.
Yeah,
it's
is.
Awful. And they got lucky the first 2 weeks he didn't lose it. You bench him, and look, if you get 110 rushing yards out of Antonio Gibson and JaMychal Hasty combined against a bad Dolphins defensive line that was dominated at the line of scrimmage by the Titans,
that's right,
with no Jalen Phillips this week, you can get the job done. It's bigger building out. This roster is awful. They got worse with 2 key injuries to David Andrews and Kyle Duggar. Rhamondre basically has an injury that could keep him out of a game. They can, in my opinion, get the job done with Gibson and JaMychal Hasty.
I'm telling you,
there
Gibson.
Has to be accountability.
Gibson also brings another layer too. He is capable. He is a great pass catcher. Played receiver in college.
Exactly.
This is a guy you can line up. You can move him around. We've seen that happen. That happened in Washington. You could line him up in different places. He lined up in the slot and got things done. But again, I'm just forewarning everyone. This guy is splashy. As exciting as he is as a player, he puts the ball on the ground. So you could be faced with the same exact issues.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the usage is there. There's the capabilities. They are lucky it's a soft landing spot in a way because it is the Dolphins.
Yes.
Texans would be a different story.
That's right.
It's the Dolphins who are down bad, and you just got to find a way to get an ugly win out of that game.
In theory, you should have a 2-back system here.
That's what
you should have a 1-2 punch, almost a thunder and lightning. Stevenson battering ram, Gibson change of pace. In theory, you should be able to do that.
That's why I said 110 yards combined between the 2 of them. You spoke about Antonio Gibson, his college days being a receiver, a guy that knows everything when it comes to college prospects. Matt Miller of ESPN, he joined us. Check it out right here. He's Matt Miller, a draft analyst for ESPN. You also know him as NFL Draft Scout on X and Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Matt, thanks for hopping on the show. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing well. It's great to see you. Although, the last time we did something together was in Madison, Wisconsin, which was one of the most fun football weekends I've ever had in my life. So it's unfortunate that we're like half a country apart right now because definitely missing the scene in Madison. I'm sure it would be awesome in Boston this time of year too.
Hey, that was also the first time we saw each other since those bars in Joplin, Missouri. So I like it. We catch up every few years. It's perfect. And I know a lot of people are going to saying, like, why are you bringing on a draft analyst now? As Matt and I were talking before we got rolling, it's always draft season. It's very important, and it's relevant, especially with the quarterback situation. I want to start there. Coming into this draft, it was a lot of people talking about Carson Beck being QB1. We know who the top 4 guys are now. It's Beck, it's Quinn Ewers, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. As it stands through 4, 5, 6 games in the college season, where do you see and who do you see being QB1 projecting towards the draft in 2025?
Yeah, it's tough this year because no one has emerged as that guy. And I'm glad you mentioned Carson Beck because after last year, Carson Beck, that was his first year as a starter, 2023, in an offense that was heavily predicated on the run and on the short passing game to Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. So you saw potential and thought, hey, he might be able to become the guy. That has not been the case so far this year with You saw the turnovers against Alabama, a lot of check down type football in previous games to that one. So he hasn't emerged. Quinn Ewers was playing like a first overall pick. He gets hurt again. This is 3 years in a row now that he's missed time with an injury. Shedeur Sanders is not playing in a sophisticated offense. It's a lot of, hey, Travis Hunter, get open and I'll throw it to you. And then you mentioned Cam Ward, who, is in his fifth, sixth year of college football now, going from Incarnate Ward to Washington State to Miami. He's definitely breaking through, but no one has stepped up as that guy. So it's really, and I would put Jalen Milroe from Alabama in that mix as well. Drew Alar from Penn State has played very, very well as a former 5-star prospect. So no one has stepped up this year. There is no Caleb Williams, who was like pre-anointed as a guy. There hasn't been a Jaden Daniels yet. There hasn't been a Drake May as of yet. So this year, it's much more spread out, trying to figure out who that top quarterback will be.
I love that you brought up like two other names. Out of those, let's start. We could go top four. If you think it's Aller, Jalen Milroe as well, I would see it too. Do any of those guys jump out to you as a day one starter in a day when everyone says play them right away? But we're also seeing some caution tales come through the NFL of why some rookies should sit.
I am, and I hate to make a blanket statement, but I'm pretty against playing rookie quarterbacks unless you have a great structure around them. Patriots fans will remember how much they hated me for saying they probably shouldn't take a quarterback at 3. They probably should trade because I thought the roster wasn't good enough. Now they're sitting Drake May, which is something I do applaud. So I think Quinn Ewers coming out of the Texas system could play right away. It's pretty complicated what they ask players to do. Steve Sarkisian has talked about how Quinn has to do a lot pre-snap. They ask their receivers to play every position. So you're really getting a lot of moving parts that Ewers has to kind of figure out and break down. Beck, potentially, because I think Georgia does run kind of a pro-style offense, but he will be, around a 24, 25-game starter, depending on if Georgia makes a run this year. I think Cam Ward definitely has the experience. Jalen Milroe would be in that mix as well. Shedeur Sanders, I love Shedeur Sanders. He's my number one quarterback. He's surgical with the ball. I worry a little bit because this is not a knock on him. He's just not played in a sophisticated offense. So the big question there will come in January, February, March when we get into the combine, pro days, private workouts, is figuring out, what is the football aptitude? Because he's in this Pat Shurmur offense where it's basically like, hey, Travis Hunter, run deep or a hook route, and we're just going to bet on your athleticism. So it's going to be a lot of questions of getting through full field reads, what they understand about blocking schemes, and how ready the team around them is to get them out on the field.
I love that you bring up Shedeur Sanders and you bring up him not being in such a sophisticated system. So obviously there'll be that learning curve when he gets to the NFL. Me being a novice when it comes to looking at guys coming from college to the pros, my red flag as I see it with Shedeur is that will Deion let Shedeur be himself, or is there that baggage that comes with Coach Prime possibly talking in the media about the roster situation, all that? Do you see that as something that could affect Shedeur Sanders' draft stock?
I mean, it could. Deion has made comments that he's going to be protective and maybe even picky about where Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter play. We'll see. There have been parents in the past who are heavily involved. Bryce Young's dad was heavily involved. Caleb Williams' dad was heavily involved. So that has happened before. I understand neither of those gentlemen are NFL Hall of Famers or the head coach at the University of Colorado. So what Deion says carries some more weight behind it, certainly. But, I never want to say like this thing or that thing will affect draft stock, because something that could, Jerod Mayo might say, hey, that's not for us. But Ryan Poles with the Chicago Bears might say, like, hey, that's not a problem for us. It's truly a unique scenario where we have 32 different general managers who all think differently about what works for their locker room culture and chemistry. And then you kind of go from there. So I don't know that the presence of Deion will hurt Shedeur. I think there could be a positive of, you have a dad who's been there. He understands what it takes to be great. He knows what the grind is like. He knows what the off-field responsibilities are like. And in this day and age of NIL, these college athletes are coming to the NFL as professionals. They've had to handle off-field. They've had to handle money, advertising and marketing opportunities and requirements. So I think Shedeur is, really set up well to be a great pro because he's grown up in it. He understands what that life is like.
And to look at that, but you pointed out that you absolutely love Shedeur's game and you love him as a prospect. What about him makes him overcome being in a non-sophisticated system that still has you tabbing of that is a guy that can be a quarterback in the NFL and be worth a very high draft pick?
It's the accuracy. It's phenomenal. Rarely does he miss. And, unlike a guy like Carson Beck, my big complaint would be he doesn't lead his receivers open.
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of all over the place. His guys catch it, but he's kind of all over the place. I think with Shedeur, you see him consistently throwing his guys open. And also there are times where he has to throw a dot, and he can do that. He can stick the ball in your chest, or he has that kind of understanding of, let me put the ball here that's going to run you into space, or let me put the ball here so the defender can't make a play on it. So he just has that kind of innate ability to understand where to put the ball. A lot of people, you're going to hear it, he holds the ball too long. Again, bad offensive line, not a sophisticated offense. And I would spin that, George, and say, does he hold the ball too long sometimes? Yes, but he is one tough son of a gun in the pocket. He is not afraid of taking hits. He is, and for not being a very big guy, 6'2", about 215, he will take a shot. Like, he's going to stand in there as long as he has to deliver the ball. And I love that from him, because I do think, back to your question about his dad's an NFL Hall of Famer. Is there, has he had that silver spoon? I'm sure he grew up with a lot of privilege, absolutely, but he plays tough, and his teammates respond to that. You could tell how much they love playing for him, and that's one of the things, part of my job is we all laugh about, like, the movie Draft Day of, like, no one went to the kid's birthday party. Everyone on that team is going to Shedeur Sanders' birthday party, because you have to love the toughness that he plays with.
No, I like that you point that out. And when we think about teams that are going to be looking at quarterbacks, Raiders, Titans, Giants, Carolina Panthers, I'm probably leaving off a few. Who do you think has the best situation to be drafting a quarterback when they pick atop the draft and they'll be eyeing that position?
Man, that is a great question. I think the Titans have drafted really well as of today when we're recording. They have some veteran receivers. DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent after this year, but Calvin Ridley's a good player. They have two good running backs. So I would say the Titans situation is really good right now. Also, a head coach in Brian Callahan who has kind of an exciting offense. Now, Will Levis has not played well in that scheme. That's, I think, goes without debate. So it would just kind of depend on who's there, who's not. I think Carolina, you look at how well Andy Dalton's played, and it kind of makes you wonder, okay, how much of that was on Bryce Young? How much of it was on the lack of talent around him or the scheme and some unfamiliarity there? So I like what Carolina has, and I think with, Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, they have a couple really good receivers. They've invested in the offensive line, the tackle spot through the draft, the interior. They spent $100 million to fix the interior of that offensive line. And you're expecting that not only would you have an early pick in round one, you're going to have some early picks in subsequent rounds to try to get additional playmakers. So the Raiders spot is interesting because Devontae Adams wants out, and they have some young receivers there. I love Brock Bowers. But I think that's an offense that's really missing a lot of pieces right now.
And even when we look at, I'll just talk about Shedeur. I got to ask about Travis Hunter, who you alluded to is like his only guy to really throw to on offense. Of course, there's also Jimmy Horn Jr. But when you are looking at Travis Hunter, watching the tape, a guy that is such a sick athlete on both sides of the ball, do you think he's better off being a corner or a wide receiver at the next level?
I swear I didn't ask you to ask me this question, but my colleague Jordan Reed and I have this huge article coming out soon that basically is each of us arguing our side of this. And I'll give you a little teaser. I think he's a wide receiver. And a big part of that to me is he's 6'2", 185 pounds. He's a very lean, long body type. I don't want him throwing his shoulder into 220-pound receivers 10 times a game. I don't want him tackling. And he's a good tackler. He's a very active defender. That's not where I want his athleticism being used. I think he's better off with that body type, avoiding contact instead of inviting it and having to initiate it. He's a great player. You can make the case right now he's the Heisman front runner. He should very likely be a top 5 pick when it comes to the 2025 NFL draft. And it's going to be fun kind of debating that over the next 9 months. Is this guy, a wide receiver? Is he a corner? I think the argument for corner is he could be a full-time corner and play 10 to 15 snaps at receiver a game. It's unlikely that we would see him do the opposite. There's not really a package to get a fourth corner out there, 10, 15 snaps a game, but he's fascinating. The work ethic, the conditioning. Got a guy who played 137 snaps last week. That's ridiculous. Like, the NFL players are playing like 60 to 70 snaps a week. He's playing double that on a weekly basis. So, just the conditioning ability, and to do that at Baylor. They're in the heat of northern Texas this time of year. It's still in the 90s, and he's out there playing almost 140 snaps. So, just an amazing ability that he has to stay out there.
No, I love you point that out. And that's just the chemistry, going back to our Joplin, Missouri days. That's why I knew. I didn't know that article was coming out, but I knew you'd have a great answer for that. And I'm excited to see Travis Hunter if he just devotes himself to either position because he's so good at both. It is a question of like which one does he play because it's hard to decide because he's such a high-level guy. Out of all the names I've dropped, when you're going through tape, you're putting together your mocks, who is that guy in this draft?
Oh my gosh. I mean, Travis Hunter is certainly up there. I think I surprised a lot of people because I think Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, he's my favorite player in the class. He's my number one ranked player right now. He's amazing. He looks like Pat Surtain 2.0. This year he already has 2 interceptions. He's run both back for touchdowns. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He's going to run a 4.4. He's physical. He has ball skills. He's the total package. He really is. So he's certainly in that mix. Luther Burden from Missouri, also a stud. This draft is really, really heavy, and Patriots fans are going to love this. It's really heavy at wide receiver. It's really heavy at corner. It's really heavy at defensive end. It's not a great – we talked about the quarterbacks. There's not that one quarterback that you're like, yep, let me trade 3 first-round picks for this player. There's not right now a great depth, and I know we'll talk about offensive tackle. There's not great depth at offensive tackle, but this is a draft. Running back, wide receiver on offense, pass rusher, corner on defense are the spots for sure.
Yeah, you just alluded to it. I love that you're saying it's deep in receiver, and you named one of those guys as Luther Burden out of Missouri, of course, a wide receiver. We got to talk tackles because that's what it's all about right now here in New England, watching the Patriots. And I remember you put out an article before the season kicked off, or opening weeks of the NFL, where you had the Patriots taking Kelvin Banks with the top 5 pick. It's either Will Campbell out of LSU or it's Kelvin Banks out of Texas. What sets them apart that you see Kelvin Banks being the better fit in New England?
I'll tell you, I'm not the biggest Will Campbell fan. A lot like Carson Beck, coming into this year, I had seen the potential, and I thought we were going to see, a stock up. I haven't seen that from him. I think his plays regress. So this could be a very long answer. Kelvin Banks just plays with more smooth ability. I think the agility to work left or right in the run game is very impressive. He gets downfield well, and he attacks linebackers with accuracy. But to just have the flexibility and the agility to get to that second level as consistently as he does is fantastic. And in the pass game, he's only 6'4", and that's going to be a big question. So when I watch a tackle and you're under 6'5", or it looks like you might have short arms, I immediately go to your feet. Are you a good enough athlete to cover up that lack of length with your feet? Now, he absolutely has that. Will Campbell on the other side has sub 33-inch arms, and despite the fact that he's 6'5", under 34 is where you start to kind of worry, and he's under 33, and I don't see the footwork to cover that up. He plays in an almost upright stance. He almost looks like an old school, high school tailback lined up at left tackle with his hands on his knees. It's a really odd stance, and he loses a lot of leverage because of it, especially in the run game. It is impossible for him to get under the pads of defenders in that stance. So he's going to need reworked a little bit. Then you worry about the length. So I think Banks is far and away the superior tackle. And I would throw out names like Josh Simmons at Ohio State is probably getting closer to that Will Campbell level, but Banks is in a tier all by himself.
No, I love you point that out. And even like you said, it was a long answer, but I think all that is so important to know, especially I'll say back to you, a general manager like Elliot Wolf, he points out why he liked Vidarian Lowe at left tackle is because of his long arms. Arm length matters to him. He has his type of guy for receiver. If the arm length does matter, then it puts Kelvin Banks above Will Campbell. I think that is something that will have an effect in the draft. And we look at their situation, they need a guy to start day one. They went with a quarterback to develop, to sit. They need that tackle to be ready because this offense can't roll out an offensive line even close to what they have this year. And they need to be ready to play Drake May under a cost control contract. You talk to a lot of execs across the league. You obviously been watching college. You watch the pros forever. And I know you keep tabs around the league. What do you make of the Patriots situation? As everyone's saying, play Drake May, I'm with you. I say sit him because this offensive line is not going to get any better. I don't know how long they can play it, but what I'm asking here, Matt, is basically what do you make of the situation with Drake May and how the Patriots should play it with a bad offensive line and now a really banged up offensive line, likely losing David Andrews for the season?
Yeah, George, I said it when they drafted him. Do not play him his rookie year. These other quarterbacks who were drafted, it's like, sure, throw Bo Nix out there. I didn't think Drake should play. Not just because the Patriots offense, but he had the least starting experience of any quarterback drafted in the first round this year. Now, Bo Nix and Michael Penix have been in college, for 6 years. So that certainly changes things. But that lack of experience, I thought the best thing for him would be to sit and learn while not getting his tail kicked behind a bad offensive line. Now, if it was a situation where you had a good offensive line and you had some receivers kind of like Washington, where you have a scheme that's going to move the quarterback. You've got some good running backs. You've got some good receivers. Okay, throw them out there. I didn't think New England had that. And through 5 weeks, I think tape backs that up. So I applaud Elliott Wolf and Jerod Mayo for staying the course and saying, we drafted Drake May for the future. And the best thing for this team long-term is not to win 3 more games in 2024. It's to set Drake up for 2025. So maybe he plays a couple games at the end of the season, but I would be very afraid, even at 6'4", 230 pounds, I would be afraid to put him back there and watch him take some of the hits that Jacoby Brissett has taken. So look at offensive tackle in round 1, and then I think you have to add playmakers in rounds 2 through 7. Obviously, free agency a big part of this, as you mentioned, with that cost-controlled rookie contracted quarterback. But they need weapons, and I think every mock draft you see from me here on out, it will be left tackle round 1, and then weapons in subsequent rounds.
Just take weapons the last 6 rounds. Just go weapon every round. But I agree. It's
why not, right?
It's a Kelvin Banks top 3, and then I'm looking at like a Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, a Yomanor out of Stanford. See where it goes. And as they did with this with Polk and Javon Baker, take multiple weapons, keep throwing darts at the board, and eventually they're going to stick. We'll see what they do. And I love you point out the starts for Drake May. He was only a starter for 2 seasons at UNC. Someone like Jaden Daniels had over 50 games under his belt coming out of Arizona State, and of course LSU, and was in a great structure, and he has a good play caller like Cliff Kingsbury. Matt, I appreciate taking the time, my man. Where you said it, I know I said off the bat, ESPN draft analyst, but where can people find you? You're in so many things. Where can people find you? I want you to do it.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing, ESPN.com, ESPN Plus is where all my content goes these days, as well as TV and digital video appearances. But then whatever we are calling it these days, Twitter or X, I'm on there at NFL Draft Scout. And I'm one of those people I'm trying to make Threads work. So if you're one of those folks that's migrated over to Threads, I'm there for you as well at the same handle.
I've been sleeping on Threads. I'll hop back on. If you're on, Matt, I'll find you out there. He's Matt Miller of ESPN, one of the best guys to talk to draft. I know it's early, but as you can tell, it's so important across the league. Matt, thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Thank you.
Matt Miller was awesome. We'll have him back on later in the year. You think how your alarm, dude?
I can't. Bro, when I do this show and when I go to church, I make sure my phone is on vibrate. I could have swore it was on vibrate. I'm getting old, man. I can't figure out these phones.
Getting old. You've been old.
I'm going back to pagers.
Don't even try.
Where the payphone? Somebody give me some change.
I could make a joke about pagers. I'm not going to. Hey, check out our interview with Treshaun Ward. BC off to a 4-1 start. They're down at UVA this Saturday. Treshaun, cool athlete, man.
He's cool.
We spoke with him. You guys check it out. We'll leave you on this episode of Boston Center the Chat with our interview with Treshaun Ward. He's Double T. I'm GB from the PNC Bank Studio on the chat. Have a good one. We'll see you guys tomorrow. He's Treshaun Ward, running back with Boston College. Treshaun, appreciate you hopping on the chat, man. How we doing today?
Man, we're doing pretty good, man. Just that I'm glad to be able to talk with you guys today.
Yeah, we're excited to get into it. I want to start with, off to this 4-1 start you guys are for Boston College. You've won pretty much every way imaginable.
Yep.
Dominating Florida State, blowouts at home, coming from behind like we saw against Western Kentucky. What's been most exciting about this season so far for you, though?
I think the most exciting thing for me is obviously with my last year being this year, just doing it with the people around you, man. When it comes to the start from January and all the workouts and stuff and whatnot, and doing it with your teammates and building that chemistry is what you really want in a team. And doing it with the guys and winning out there with the guys and just seeing the fan base coming out there showing their support. It's a big support for me, man, and a big eye opener because I've been having some teammates and coaches as well saying from last year to this year, the amount of fans that's been out there and students that's been out there as well has been a big change. So that's a good thing for Boston College.
Bro, I want to talk to you about the running back room because, look, you guys do it by committee here at Boston College, right? Including your QB1 when he's healthy, of course. So I noticed, though, you ran all over FSU, your old team. You ran all over Sparty. How do you feel about running back by committee? Do you like that, or are you more of that Derrick Henry aura? You want all them carries. Do you want to be the every down back, or do you feel almost even fresher by the running back by committee style?
I feel like the running back committee, in a sense, it gives a defense a false pretense. And when I say that, is you've got to prepare for both both running backs when it comes to me and Kai. So in relation to that, like not only like, you know, you're not going to be getting beat up as much, but like everybody, well, both backs is going to be able to be fresh when they come in. So I feel like this is a pretty good, you know, system with being able to, you know, get some rest while you're in during the game, and like when you come in, you're fresh as well. So like, I mean, I don't really too much pay attention to that, but just like, you know, when I get in the game, that's when I'm in the game. So.
Yeah, you kind of humble with that answer because as Trav alluded to, 138 total yards, 1 touchdown against Florida State. I don't want to look back to week 1 too much, but Treshaun, how sweet did that feel doing that against Florida in Tallahassee under the lights against a team you played for and just dicing up their defense in a big, big, big win for Boston College?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously, like, my teammates and the coaches and everybody around me knew, like, this was going to be, like, a big game for me. And not only just because it's my former team, but, you know, I'm just coming back and see, like, some of my teammates and some of the guys out there was there when I was there. So being able to play against them and see them for another chance, because, like, you know, I've been bouncing around from Kansas and now I'm up here, so I haven't seen them in a little minute. But, you know, getting that dub in Tallahassee was a good win because, you know, obviously everybody was kind of doubting us out, you know, pointing us out. And, like, you know, when it comes to, like, our program, you know, within the work we had and, like, throughout the week, we just know that without our work, that was going to come out there and take that win. And, like, you know, we just had this mindset that Bill instilled it with us and, you know, just faceless opponent. And, like, we only need everybody. We only need anybody that's in, like, our program to believe in us. So it was a great win to pick up in Tally.
Hey, you know what? While we're talking about your path to get here to Boston College and how you played at Florida State, look, you played in the ACC and you played in the Big 12. I'll keep it real with you. Coming into this season, I thought Boston College would be improved, and you guys are, but I thought the ACC overall would be down. This would be a down year. You look up right now as we sit here, 3 ranked teams in the country from the ACC. Talk to me. I know you guys are getting into ACC play, but talk to me about what you played against so far in conference and what you've seen from it. It's much better than I thought, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the ACC is like, you know, it's a pretty what's the word? It's a confusing conference because, like, you know, obviously you got your big schools like Clemson and Florida State and all that, but, like, you also have, like, for the teams like that's coming up, like it's really anybody year when it comes to the ACC. You've seen, like, this year, obviously, with the team starting off with a strong start, and you know, with the standings from, like, preseason and all of that, like, it gives a sense of who's going to be good. But, like, you know, you don't really see that until, like, college football really been played. Like, college football, you never know what's going to really happen. So, but I mean, in the ACC, I feel like it's really anybody's game. Like, you got to come with the mentality of every week of getting better, and, you know, you got to play each game without, like, not worrying about the opponent. So, I mean, it's a pretty confusing conference if you ask me, but I mean, it's really up for grabs for anybody.
Hey, one thing that's no one can get confused with Boston College, with the offense you guys got, with how the defense is played.
Yep.
We know what we get. You guys are going to attack, pound the rock on the ground. Tommy Castellanos is going to make his amazing plays. You guys have been winning. When we look back at what the season has been, dominating Florida State on the road, you have that game against Duquesne. It comes down to the very last play of the game with a huge interception by BC to beat Michigan State, and then to come back from down 14 against Western Kentucky. How have you felt the confidence in your locker room grow game by game, especially the way you guys continue to respond to no matter how sideways a game may go, you find a way to win?
Yep.
I mean, I feel like the confidence is like, you know, kind of the way defense plays, you kind of get that confidence to play complementary football. So, like, when you see the defense get out a big shutout or, like, you know, a sack or interception, like, as an offensive-minded person, like, you want to be like, okay, since the defense just got off the field, maybe we're going to try to go and get on this field and get some stakes or a point. But with that, it's just like, complementary football is a great thing, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about as a program, that we got to play a lot more complementary football as relation to both sides of the football. So, I mean, obviously we're going to have that mindset of running the ball, tough mindset, and, you know, don't really care who we play, but I mean, we got to play better at complementary football.
Hey, look, I know from talking to you before we got on camera how much admiration and respect you have for head coaches in football. I want to talk to you about your head coach, man, Bill O'Brien. You know Billy O. He's a local boy around here, so he gets a lot of love. Talk to me about the Bill O'Brien experience as your head coach. What have you learned? What do you love about him? Why is it working for you guys? We talked about some of those ranked teams in the ACC. Hell, you keep winning like you are, you're going to be ranked here before long. Talk to me about your head coach.
Yeah, man, what you see is what you get, man. But I really don't think, like, a lot of people get is that he has a great sense of humor. Like, throughout our team meetings, like, there's, like, times where he'll be saying some sayings, like just some general saying, like, I don't even know where he gets it from, but I'll write it down, and, like, he'll have the whole team laughing and the coaches as well. But not only that, when he comes in the room, like, you know, everybody knows he means business. So, like, when he comes in, he talks to us, especially when he's coming from a professional standpoint. He knows what he talks about. He's been coaching the best, so he knows how to win, and also he's been in those situations where we want to get to where we want to get to, which is a championship. So he brings a very when it comes to, like, our offense, you know, he brings a pro style set. So when it comes to that, like, you know, most of our admirations of getting to the league is, like, you know, already in this college level with Bill O'Brien. So he brings intensity in practice, and, like, when we have our lows in practice and it's not at the intensity he wanted, he's going to bring it up and, like, get on us, yell at us, and, like, say we need to pick it up. So he's a guy that's going to, you know, have a humor. He's going to be really hard nosed on you if you don't have your stuff together, but he's loving as well, though. He has a side that, you know, like, really people haven't really seen.
I love hearing that. I mean, the man is serious as can be fiery. We've seen it from when he was with the Pats. We've seen it at BC, but he keeps it light. It doesn't have to be the best one, but do you have any of those sayings off the top of your head that he said?
I got you. So one of the sayings, this was during, like, fall camp, and this was, like, when during, like, the one-on-ones with the OL and DL, or I think it was, like, team or whatnot, but basically the D-line was just rushing through the gaps, like, they really, like, just rushed through the gap and got to the quarterback, and he was like, he was pulling up the film, and it was like, this looks like a screen door inside of a submarine. so like when he said that, when it kind of brought me up top, I'm like a what? Screen door inside of a submarine, and then I got it. I was like, oh, the water going through it. So like, it makes sense. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
No, I love that. He finds a way to, like, level with you guys and see it. And I could imagine when Bill O'Brien gets to the heights, that is something that interests you. An NFL coach, proven, been everywhere, been calling plays at every level for someone that was in the portal. But being from Florida, you went to FSU, then you were at K-State. What drew you to Boston College to land here with your last year of eligibility to play college football?
Yeah, obviously, one of the biggest was, you know, my position coach, Savon Huggins, and, like, you know, with him being highly recruited when it comes to his career in high school, I feel like our conversation and the connection we had was really dear. And not only that, but, like, you know, the plan for me and, like, you know, coming here, getting this, you know, egregious degree when it comes to Boston College and, like, the Alumni Association, dealing with that, like, you know, you're going to be pretty much set up for life. So not only that, but, like, you know, when it comes to the team last year, they were talking about how, like, yeah, man, we were like 7-6, but there were some games that we should have won that could have made us either 9 wins or 10 wins, and I want to be a part of something like that. But yeah, the plan that he had, and, like, you know, coming here to a academic school that's going to have you pretty much set up for, you know, life after football, and just seeing, like, the alumni association around, like, you know, sports administration and, like, front offices and whatnot. This was something I couldn't pass up.
Hey, I love you pointing out Savon Huggins, because Treshaun, I'm from Jersey.
Oh God!
Just like anyone from Florida does.
Okay.
You guys look out for each other. You likely know.
God.
Savon Huggins was a legend at St. Peter's Prep when he was playing there.
Hey, they told me, man. He told me the stories for sure, man. Like, you know, when it comes to Rutgers, having everybody knowing him when he was in high school, showing up to the visits in the spring game and whatnot. So, like, yeah, man, I know he was. He even told us he was on the back of the bus too, like the buses around. Yeah, so it was like, you know.
You walk up on St. Peter's campus, you're like, this small school, like, they got powerhouse football players. That's how it was, man. Savon's a legend. Trav's rolling his eyes. I'm gonna stand up for Jersey every time. Treshaun, I love you pointing him out. What has stuck with you learning from Savon Huggins, who's a Jersey legend? I got to say it one more time.
man, like, you know, his passion for the game, like, I don't think, like, I think a lot of people take for granted for, like, coaches when it comes to, like, their passion for the game, and some of them kind of see it like, oh, man, I don't know, he's being hard on us, or, you know, he's being a little bit too much, but, like, I feel like the passion for the game and the way he teaches and, like, how he prepares for us when it comes to games is, like, really what makes things slow down for us. So, I mean, his passion for the game is, I mean, nothing like I ever seen before. So, but it only makes you want to practice harder, come out with a mentality, like with his mentality of coming out to work and just, like, you know, get better every day.
Treshaun, I'm sure your coach is a fine guy and a legend and all the great things, but my man George always, no matter what we're talking about, brings it back to Jersey. No matter what we're doing, I want to ask you about your quarterback here because, look, right now you guys have two good quarterbacks. Let's call it what it is. Now, Castellanos, we know, is the man, assuming he's back for UVA. Talk to me about him, not only as a playmaker, but as a teammate, because that kid is a stud.
Yeah. So, obviously, you know, with him, man, it's like when it comes to the football, like, you got to really determine as a defense what you want to stop when it comes to the passing game or the running game. But, like, not only that, but outside of, like, you know, football, his character, man, he just has, like, such a great humor. And, like, you know, he's loved by everybody, man. Like, he can talk to anybody, you know, making it seem like, you know, y'all been friends for years and stuff. And, like, especially on my visit, like, when it came to here, like, you know, he made me feel welcome and just, like, you know, give me that good talk that I needed. But not only that, man, he's just a guy that thinks he can do everything. Like, he can kick a soccer ball, he can play baseball, he can punt, he can, like, be a D lineman. Like, it's just funny. And, like, you know, you seen around, like, everybody around the facility, and, you know, everybody around him, you know, thinks the same thing. But, like, when it comes to the real and when it's time to really lock into the football standpoint, you know, he brings the offense up and he, like, really gets in, like, that mindset, like, hey, I need you, man. I need y'all to lock in, take a deep breath, man. Let's score. Let's go get this drive in. But, like, he's a great leader, man, great humor, and he knows how to talk to everybody and really, you know, relate to everybody as well.
I love you point that out. It's all about that leadership.
Yep.
And obviously brings the team a lot closer together when you guys got him on the field. Hey, what are you looking forward to? This matchup's at UVA this weekend, back on the road, ACC kickoff for you guys. What's important to you and what sticks out to you about this opponent in the Cavaliers down in Virginia?
Yeah, obviously we have, like, some of them, I guess, like, scouting report, and OB does a great job at that during, like, the first part of the week. But obviously their defense, they have some physical front seven when it comes to, like, their D linemen. They got some good D linemen, and as far as their backers, they have some great backers too. That's physical and tough. And as it relates to the passing game and, like, the receiver, that's probably where we're going to make our money at the most, you know, when it comes to the DBs and, like, you know, kind of, like, suspect a little bit back there. But when it comes to the DBs, I mean, when it comes to the defense, like, you know, they have a great group of seven. And really, you know, we're going to try to do the same thing every week, man. Start clean football, you know, start fast, being able to run the ball and create an identity for ourselves throughout that. But, you know, with that, we just got to come with a sense of, like, just playing one play at a time and being able to stay on schedule.
You know what, Treshaun? Look, I used to cover UVA, so you ain't got to say it. I'll say it for the both of us because you know. They don't know how to watch football in that place. That's not a real tough road game. Talk to me about Chestnut Hill, bro. Before I got here in town, I always had respect for Chestnut Hill. Now I've been to some BC games. It's lit. It's getting better every Saturday. Talk to me about playing in front of your crowd. I know it's not this week, but I just want to hear you talk that talk because you alluded to it earlier in the interview as well about how it's gotten better.
Yeah. So obviously, like, you know, the first time I'd been to Chestnut Hill, obviously with Florida State, and, like, the crowd there, it wasn't really as much as it was then. And now it's like, you know, when it comes to, like, scoring and stuff, especially, like, the Michigan State game when I scored that little touchdown and I was, like, running around, and I was just seeing and looking at the crowd and just seeing everybody cheering, and, like, with it being a rainy game and they still coming out there and then, like, filling up the crowds, it was phenomenal to see. And not only that, but, like, fresh off the win out for Florida State, you know, we got Duquesne, and you would have thought, like, not many people would have showed up to the game just because, you know, based off what we won the first week and whatnot. But they still showed up and showed had a packed up crowd. And like, you know, the fans are a big thing when it comes to football too, because they gave us a lot of energy too. So the crowd's a big thing, and like playing in front of that crowd, man, I love to do it, man. Like the student section, they do a great job at it. You know, doing what they do. You know, provide energy for us, and like we just feed off them like how they feed off us.
Hey, man, you got BC off to a 4-1 start, that huge win over Michigan State. That one under the lights, that was an unreal college environment. We know that big comeback over Western Kentucky.
Yep.
All those home games out at the Heights at Alumni Stadium are exciting. Treshaun, super quick, whenever you get into it with Coach Huggins, who wins it? Who's the better running back state, Jersey or Florida?
God. Oh, my God.
I can't even. Hey.
Tell me the truth.
Respectfully, I'm going to, give respect to Jersey. I'm going to give respect to everybody else.
But
we all know Florida is the factory for everything. Florida is the factory for everything, man.
Talk about it.
Florida is the factory. Florida and, like, down south is the factory for everything, man. Like, yeah, you got your dudes. Got some good dudes from Jersey and whatnot. But, like, man, we play year-round football down there. So, like, it's a big difference.
Thank you.
Can't deny it. Can't deny the speed. And you know what? No defense can deny Treshaun Ward when he's on the field. You're the man, Treshaun. Great convo. Appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for coming on the chat, man. Best of luck Saturday out at UVA. We're rooting for you.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you for having me.